Lesson 80, Operations with Scientific Notation. If you remember, we just discussed scientific notation not too long ago, and we learned that whenever we have numbers that we want to make smaller, like for instance we have 700,000, or let's just say 7,000, we want to write that smaller. We count the number of decimal places that we want to shift it. We want to write it like a 7, so we want to shift it 1, 2, 3 times. So it's going to be a positive 3, because when we multiply, we want this number to get bigger. So this is a positive, and positive is usually bigger. Positive means more. Or on the number line, it's greater. When you go positive, the value increases. So if we had this similar number, let's say we had 0.0007, we want to write that as a 7, we would move our decimal place backwards, right? 1, 2, 3, 4 spaces, so that'd be -4. It'd be negative because when we multiply, this number needs to get smaller. It needs to become a decimal. So if you want to make it a decimal, it needs to go into decimal format. It should be negative. And if you want it to be a bigger number, it needs to be positive. All right, that's just a quick review. Let's move on to 80.1. We're going to talk about how to multiply with scientific notation. And we are given this problem. Let's go ahead and write this down as I'm writing it, and then you can solve it with me. And that's 10 to the 20, in case you can't see that. All right, so this first one isn't all the way in scientific notation, so we need to clean it up a little bit. We need to get it to where we can actually multiply it. So we want this to look like a 3 here. So we have 3, and we know that's going to be times 10 times something. So we need to move this decimal place. 1, 2, 3 spaces. So we're moving it backwards. So it'll be -3. And we'll bring down this -4 right here that we already had. We could put those together. -3 plus -4. That's 10 to the -7. Right? 2 times 10 to the 20. When we multiply, I'm going to rewrite this for you so it looks cleaner, because I have room to do so. When we multiply in scientific notation, we treat our tens like variables. Like they are bases, but we do not multiply, even though they're a whole number, we don't multiply them times each other. We leave them as a base of 10. Okay, so the only thing we actually multiply is the whole numbers. So we multiply 3 times 2, and that gives us 6. We bring down our operation of times, and we bring down our base of 10. And then when we multiply bases, we add the exponents. That is the rule of bases and exponents. When you multiply the bases, you add the exponents together. And in this case, -7 and +20 is going to be a +13. And that's going to be your answer for 80.1. 80.2. We are given, let's see, oh, that's 4 zeros, so 1, 2, 3, 4 times 10 to the -5 and 700,000. All right, we need to make sure this is in the most compact format possible and get all of our zeros out of the way. So let's do that now. We know this is going to need to be 4, right, times 10 to the something. And let's figure this out. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That'd be a -5 plus a -5 is going to be a -10. And this is going to be 7, but we're going to move the decimal this way. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Make sure I did that right. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, so 7 times 10 to the +5 because this number has to get bigger when it's multiplied. So that's what the positive does. So now let's multiply the whole numbers in the front together. 4 times 7 is 28 times 10. A negative 10 and positive 5 is a negative 5. Are we done? No, we are not. We need to actually move this decimal place one more time. We really only want to have one whole number here. So we're going to make this 2.8 times 10, and because we moved it forward, we're gonna add a positive 1, so it's going to be a negative 4. Okay. Let's do 80.3. I think we can get it all on the same page. Now we're going to do some division. We are going to divide in scientific notation. First, we have to look at our problem. We have this number, and it is divided by this number. First things first, we have to put this into scientific notation. We know we want this to be 1.6, right? Now we need to know how many decimal places we're moving it back. 1, 2, 3, so it's negative 3. And then we need to put this in scientific notation. And let's see how many we're moving this forward. 1, 2, 3. Oh goodness, what was that? Let's do that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So it's positive 5. All right, so now we are able to divide. 1.6 divided by 4. You can do that on your calculator. That's going to be 0.4 times 10. Now, when we have fraction, and let's just pretend this is a variable, we have 10 to the negative 3 on the top and 10 to the positive 5 on the bottom. We can flip this up just like we used to do, and it becomes 10 to the negative 5. Well, we have bases here that we can multiply, so it means we add our exponent. So that's just going to be negative 8, just like that. All right, but we don't want this to be 0.4. We want this to be 4. So we are going to move the decimal back, right, to 4 times 10. And because we move the decimal back 1, we're going to add a negative 1. So it's 4 times 10 to the negative 9. That's our final answer. All right, so now we're going to do a little bit bigger problem. It uses both multiplication and division. Let's clear the page and go and do 80.4. We're going to need the whole page for this one. So this is our problem. I'm going to write it out for you. Copy as I write. That way I don't have to say it out loud for you. I know that gets annoying. Don't get scared. It'll be all right, I promise. We have 4 zeros and the number 4. And that is 7 million. Okay. All right, so we have some cleaning up to do. We are going to first clean everything up. That's our first step. So step 1, clean up our scientific notation. All right, so first, let's do this one on top. We want this to be a 7 times 10 to the something, right? So here's a way that you can do this. This is a trick I learned. If you know that which direction you're going and whether it's going to be positive or negative, you can just count. Start with the number you have and count. So we already have negative 23. So 24, 25, 26, 27. So it's negative 27. Right? And if we had said 1, 2, 3, 4, that's negative 4, and negative 23 is negative 27. So that was easier, I think. If you can do it that way, that's just a little tip. It'll save you some, it'll give you some more neatness on your paper. It'll save you some scratching. Or you could just do it like this and write the negative or the exponent above it and add it in before you bring it down. Either way works. We know we want this to be a 4 times 10 to the something. So this is going to be 1, 2, 3, and you could just write a 3 above. 3 plus 6 is 9. Either way works. As long as you get the right exponent, it should be fine. All right, so now we're going to do the bottom part, and we know we want this to be 4 times 10 to the something. So negative 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And we want this to be 7 times 10 to the something. And we have 6 zeros, so it's going to be 6 right here. And I'll prove it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And that's positive 6. All right, so now we can multiply. Now that we've got everything cleaned up, we can multiply. So we multiply whole numbers. And NOS is whole numbers, and then we multiply our exponents, which actually is adding. Right? So let's just do that right here. This is going to equal 7 times 4 is 28 again, times 10 to the something. We have negative 27. And 9, that's going to be negative 18, right? And we have 4 times 8, that's going to be 28, times 10 to the something, negative 5, and positive 6 is going to be negative 1. Right? No, sorry. That's positive 1. Aren't you guys glad I caught that? All right, that's positive 1. I'm getting ahead of myself a little bit. 28 divided by 28 is 1 times 10. And we take this and we flip it up and it becomes 10 to the negative 1. And that's negative 19. So 1 times 10 to the negative 19 is the answer to all of that up there. Okay? Now there's a technique that you can use when you divide here. You can rewrite your problem as the whole numbers over the whole numbers and the exponent or the base over the base. And that'll make it easier to see what you have to do. It works exactly the same way. You're just splitting it up. So 28 over 28 is still 1. And you still flip this up and make it a negative 1. Same answer. It just makes it easier to see. So if you need to rewrite it once you get to here, if you need to rewrite it to make it easier to see, then you can do that. All right. So we multiplied our whole numbers. We add our exponents together, right? Then we divide the whole numbers. And then we flip our denominator 10, whatever exponent that is, and combine. And that's our answer. All right, let's move on to 80.5. And this is our last one. It's another one like what we just did. So 20 times 10 to the negative 45 and 400 times 10 to the 20. All over 100,000 times 10 to the negative 15. All right, so let's clean up our act. Step 1, let's clean up all of our scientific notation. So this should be 2 times 10 to the negative 44. Because we made this smaller, we're going to make this smaller. All right, let's clean this one up. This could be 4 times 10, and we're going to make that 22 because that's going to be bigger. Now we're going to do the bottom, clean it up. We know we're going to have 1 times 10, and you can just count the number of zeros. That's 5. And then this needs to be an 8 times 10, and it's already a negative 15. So 16, 17, 18, 19, negative 19. All right, now we can multiply. So let's multiply our whole numbers. We have 2 times 4 is 8 times 10 to the something, and we have negative 44 and a positive 22. That's going to be a negative 22. And then we have 1 times 8, that's 8 times 10 to the 5, and negative 19, that's going to be 10 to the negative 14, I do believe. Yes, it is. All right, so if you need to simplify or straighten it up so you can see what's going on, you could just do that right there. You could just erase that and put your x, your multiplication, if that makes it simpler for you to see. So 8 divided by 8 is 1 times, it's going to be 10 to the something. All right, so we're going to take this and flip it up. That becomes 10 to the positive 14, okay? And negative 22 and positive 14 leaves a negative 8. And that's our answer. So it's not so complicated once you learn the steps. Clean up your scientific notation, which is what we did here. Multiply your whole numbers, and then add the exponents of your base 10s for the top and the bottom. Then you can go ahead and divide each part. Divide the whole numbers, and then flip up your base, bring your exponent, flip your exponent for your base, and add them together. And that's your answer. All right, that's all I have for lesson 80. I'll see you in lesson 81.